After a weekend off, the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup paddock revs back into life as a second visit to the stunning Pratama Sepang International Circuit awaits us for round 5. As we get set for a potentially title-deciding weekend with Indonesia's Pratama knowing he holds a commanding 74-point lead over Jakwipat Puetazan in the overall standings with just 4 races to go, including today's in 2023. Here's some highlights from the action that took place yesterday. On Friday, both of those sessions were topped by Eamon Adaki as the Japanese rider ended day 1, an impressive half a second clear of Cup leader Pratama. As you can see, 2 fully dry free practice outings were completed in the baking hot, bone dry conditions, as was qualifying. But as you'll see very shortly, the rain has unfortunately arrived at Sepang to throw a spanner in the works ahead of race 1 here at the Sepang International Circuit. The riders haven't had wet weather outing since Japan, so this is going to be very interesting indeed. 2 races coming your way this weekend as usual. The first one getting underway in just under 10 minutes time, and the second race on Sunday at 9:45. So, welcome to the Sepang International Circuit, and they are live pictures, unfortunately, around about 5 to 10 minutes after the MotoGP Tissot Sprint concluded. The rain, unfortunately, arrived just as I was walking over to the main grandstand to the commentary position. So I've got a bit wet, and unfortunately the riders on track are also getting a bit wet, as are some of the spectators who have hung around to watch race 1 of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup here in Malaysia. A second time visiting Malaysia this year. 33 degrees air temperature, 38 degree track temperature. As you can see from the graphic and the pictures, it is raining. It's held up slightly. It was raining pretty heavy about 5 minutes ago. It's just leveled off a little bit, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. My name is Elliot York, and alongside me in the commentary box once again is my good pal Chris Jordan. Chris, a bit of a spanner in the works, as I said. Unfortunately, it would have been good to have a dry race. The qualifying times and practice times were very close, and we were excited for a couple of races. It should be a good race anyway once we get underway. Just confirmation that the body screens are wet. Start procedure, pit lane open for 7 minutes. So you're going to see the riders who have all headed out on track to get some wet track time. They'll come back into pit lane a couple of times. It's a long lap here at the Pratama Sepang International Circuit. So they'll come in for a couple of laps just to get some feel for the circuit, feel for the conditions. As I said, the first time this weekend it has been wet. So pit lane open for 7 minutes, then it'll shut, then they'll make their way round to the grid, and then hopefully we will be underway for race 1. But Chris, welcome to Sepang, mate. I'm looking forward to these 2 races, and what a prospects we've got in our hands. Pratama in contention to claim the title this weekend.
Yeah, fantastic to be alongside you once again here for the ATC. And I'm very sorry to hear you got wet, but you know, as they say, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes, Elliot. So I think you should be prepared better next time. But indeed, we do have the first wet start procedure here. So this is going to be a crucial 7 minutes for these riders. First wet session of the weekend, and there hasn't been a lot of wet riding in this championship so far this year, so keep an eye on this one. Pratama, you would imagine, is the favourite, but how much of a spanner in the works will this wet weather be?
It'll be a big one, unfortunately. As you can see, it is very wet out there. The riders all taking it nice and steady. Takahira, incidentally, will start on pole position, Rishi Takahira. And good news is he's made it further round than he did last time. It was similar conditions back in Japan, if you remember back then. Takahira unfortunately crashed on the sighting lap and then crashed a couple of laps into the race, and that unfortunately led to a DNF for Takahira. But getting live pictures of the riders tackling the Sepang International Circuit, 5.5 kilometre long, 3.4 mile long circuit. It's got a bit of everything, but as you can see there, very tricky conditions indeed. The rain super intense at the top end of the circuit. They're just rounding turn 4, and then they'll come over the breast of the hill, the brow of the hill I should say, round turn 5. It looks very wet up there. What I will say is, Chris, looking outside of the commentary box window, both to the front and to the rear, it looks like we're just sort of in the middle of a heavy rain shower. To the right-hand side of the circuit, it looks pretty clear. To the far end of the circuit, it looks pretty clear. To the left-hand, to the rear, it looks pretty clear. But unfortunately, we dodged it yesterday. We got pretty lucky yesterday. Some of the team's weather radars were saying that we dodged it by a couple of miles. We were literally in a circle that didn't have rain. Unfortunately, not so lucky today, but we'll see what happens from here. But yeah, look at that. You can see how wet it is out there for these riders. And as we say, this is the first time they've had wet weather here this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely bucketing down. You can see the riders having the utmost caution. They're creeping around here at Sepang International Circuit. And we're going to see how quick they can go in this race. But yeah, I imagine they're going to try and get a few laps in here and just assess where the best places are, where they can push that a little bit more coming around the circuit here. But it looked particularly heavy around turns 3, 4 and 5. But ride up a little bit as they come towards the end of the circuit a bit more. It's not as heavy here as we're looking on our screens. So yeah, very, very crucial few minutes here for them to adjust to what's in front of them on the circus.
Yeah, exactly that. Let's run through the Pratama title chance, as we can call it. As I said, he's got a 74-point lead coming into this one. With 4 races remaining, that means there's 75 points still on offer. So essentially, after this race, Pratama needs to be 75 points or more clear of his closest rivals. His closest at the minute being Pratama, Mitani and Adaki in 3rd and 4th places respectively at 80 points back. And then Takahira, who, as I mentioned, starts on pole position, is 90 points back. So, essentially, if Pratama wins the race, he is the champion. If he beats Pratama and doesn't lose 5 points to Mitani, more than 5 points to Mitani, he is champion. Same with Adaki in Mitani's case. So, essentially, Pratama needs to beat Pratama for Pratama to stand any chance of having a mathematical chance of still being champion. It sounds more complicated than it is. I've probably not done a good job of explaining that very well, but essentially, if it doesn't happen today, it's very, very likely to happen in race 2, because at the end of this weekend there are only 50 points on the table. He's 74 points clear now, so it's very unlikely, I say that hesitantly of course, anything can happen in motorcycle racing, that Pratama doesn't leave this weekend as the champion, but we will wait and see to find out. Pratama knows what he's got to do. He's been on fire all year. If you've not been watching the Asian Talent Cup all year, do go and watch some of the races back, especially last time out in Buriram, Chris. Thai GP never really disappoints across all classes, but what a couple of races we had back there. Some intense battles and some fascinating battles as well.
Yeah, absolute stunner last time out. It was Jacques Pratama who took race 1 when I was commentating alongside you, and he did that in fine fashion too, didn't he? For a breakthrough win in front of your home crowd, I'm sure he couldn't have dreamed it any better, doing it at the final corner and nudging his main rival down into 5th place. I also must offer you my thanks for giving the title permutations a go. Mathematics has never been my strong point, so thank you for taking that off of my hands. But as I read it, Pratama just needs to outscore Pratama by a point and he'll take the title. Mitani, Adaki and Takahira are all within a mathematical chance, but they are 80, 80 and 90 points back respectively. They'll need nothing short of a miracle really if they are to keep this title fight going into the final round at Qatar.
Yeah, exactly that, Chris. If you are just joining us, this isn't the race. This is live pictures of the riders just making their way round the sighting laps. You see their pit lane open for 7 minutes. I think they'll be coming round to the starting grids this lap. As I mentioned, it's a long lap here. The mechanics are all waiting on the grids. We will bring you information if we're going to get a delayed stop or not. Not had any information through as of yet, so looks like we'll be getting underway fairly sharpish. But yeah, all the riders just making their way around the Sepang International Circuit very nicely indeed, just picking up where the grip is and sussing out the conditions. Mitani on your screen there on the number 2 rider. He knows what he's got to do today to try and stop Pratama from claiming the title in race 1. Up the back straight they go. Slipstream City here at the Sepang International Circuit, out of turn 14. the second gear right-hander to turn 15, the famous final corner here at Sepang, where so many races are won and lost, and it's all about firing it out for the final corner and getting a good launch down the long front straight. There is the number 7 of Veda Pratama. All eyes will be on Pratama this weekend and today. He was the race winner back in Japan when we last had a wet race. A little bit different conditions, I would say, back in Japan. The race started wet and then continued to get drier and drier. It does look like the rain is just holding off on the front straight, at least. Anyway, you can probably hear, I can hear through my headset, so I assume you can hear through your TVs or wherever you're watching from as well. Some of the fans screaming for Veda Pratama. Loads and loads of fans in this part of the world already for Veda Pratama. The Indonesians, of course, love their motorcycle racing, and Veda Pratama, the champion-elect in many ways in 2023, is already gathering some momentum in terms of fans in this part of the world. Rishi Takehira, Chris, starting on pole position. We, of course, came here for round 1 earlier on in the year. He won the opening race of the season, finished a close second, and then unfortunately for Takehira, hasn't finished on the podium since.
Yeah, it really was a breakthrough weekend for him, but as you said, hasn't been on the podium since he picked up a P1, P2 in that opening round in Malaysia. Still mathematically in with a shout of the championship, but 90 points off with 100 left. He will need nothing short of a miracle. Shinya Zawa then, he was just less than half a tenth of Takehira in qualifying. He was on the front row in Motegi and Mandalika. He's back on it here. Still no win in 2023 either for the number 21, but P2s in Japan and Thailand are his best offering of 2023 so far. And completing a Japanese lockout of the front row is Eamon Odaki, also within a tenth of the pole sitter in qualifying, and he too is still chasing that first win of the year, though he has come close on a number of occasions.
Yeah, certainly has. Odaki finished on the podium in the last 4 races, finished on the podium back his home race in Japan as well. So Odaki really desperate for that first win of the season. Not many riders have won this year due to Veda Pratama's dominance. Pratama has 6 wins and 7 podiums in total. Of course, Pratama, as you mentioned, Chris, back in Thailand, that dream debut victory in the Asia Talent Cup back in race 1 on home soil, and then of course, as we've just mentioned, Takehira winning the opening race of the season. Zenmatani starts P4. He picked up a couple of podiums, did Matani, back in September at the round 1 here in Malaysia. Zenmatani, a rookie, remember, easy to forget, Chris, that Matani is a rookie. He's been so impressive, and unfortunately suffered that nasty crash out of P2 in the latter stages of race 2 over in Thailand.
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal breakthrough here, hasn't he? He's been consistent podium threat and race winning threat. He had a bit of a misfortune, shall we say, in Thailand race 2 where he high-sided out, but he'll start P4 just ahead of the rider of the moment. That's Veda Pratama, the rider of the moment in the class. 6 wins, including 5 in a row, 1 further podium. He's been nigh on unstoppable. He needs to outscore the man on your screen now, Jack Raffet, Poet de San, by a point to take the title today, and of course outscore some of the other riders who are a bit further back in the championship. He's also bidding to become the first Indonesian to win the competition. So here is your starting grid for race 1. It's Rishi Takehira, Zawa and Eamon Odaki on the front row. Zenmatani, Veda Pratama and Farish Hafai, home hero Hafai, the best placed of the Malaysians. Jack Pret, Poet de San, Ryoto Ogiwara and Marianos Nicholas are on the 3rd row ahead of Fares Putra. Hamad Al Sahuti, Levi Kwan Rusu make up row 4. Row 5 then is all Indonesian, Melandri, Razyadan and Gading, while row 6 is Darwisi, Singapong and Putra, while Sarthak Shavan completes the starting grid for race 1 here in Malaysia.
Here we go then. Warm-up lap time here at the Sepang International Circuit. We are going to get underway for race 1 of 2, and as we've mentioned, a potentially title-defining race in the 2023 Asia Talent Cup. Vader Pratama there on the number 7 machine. He'll be looking to get a decent start from the second row. Middle of the second row, by no means a disaster. It's only the second time he's not been on pole position this year for Pratama. The last time he wasn't on pole position was back in Japan. He started on the outside of row 2 in P6, and as you've probably guessed and probably worked out by now, he won those races from P6. So Vader Pratama won't be too worried on the number 7 machine. And as we've mentioned, he's got plenty of experience now in the Asia Talent Cup. He knows these conditions, he knows this track, so this could work in his favour. There you can see live pictures over the back of the circuit, which is pretty much where the wind direction is, I think. I might be wrong, but judging from outside and the cloud direction, I don't think the rain is going to stay out for too long. So you can see it's already brightening up compared to what it was 10-15 minutes ago, so that's good news. The riders are going to have to take the first few laps pretty steady, as you always would do in the wet conditions. It's going to be interesting to see, Chris, who gains the most knowledge and gains the most confidence on those few sighting laps they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at our screens here on the other side of the track, compared to what we were watching about 10 minutes ago when it was bucketing down, it seems to have cleared up quite a bit. So good signs ahead. As you can see, it's still a very, very wet track, but we imagine it's 33 degrees out there. It's only a matter of time before a dry line appears. Championship standings, you can see there on your right-hand side, Pratama on 181 points. He's closing in on the all-time record as well. That stands to Ayumi Sasaki, 203 points in the ATC. So victory today for Pratama would deliver him a title and the ATC points record. Jack Rafet Puetasan 74 behind, with Mitani and Odaki 80 behind each. So coming towards the end of the warm-up lap, we can see a lot of water, standing water there being flicked up from the back of these Honda machines, but looking a little bit more positive than it was about 15 minutes ago, Elliot.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Down the back straight, obviously wet, you can see the spray coming up from the bikes there, but nothing too treacherous to say the least. It looks a little bit worse out the back end of the circuit, around turn 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That sort of area of the circuit looks where the most water is, but around the other parts of the circuit, it looks decent enough indeed. Indonesia, are you ready? You could be getting ready to celebrate Vader Pratama becoming the 2023 Asia Talent Cup champion. A long way to go, of course. 11 laps coming up here in race 1. The same again tomorrow morning at 9:45. If Pratama doesn't get the job done in the next 20-25 minutes, then will he get the job done tomorrow? The number 20 of Puetasan is his chief title rival, starting from P7, the spearhead of row 3. And this is Rishi Takehira. Winner here, of course, in round 1 on the number 9 machine, launching from pole position. Ozawa and Adaki lining up next to him. So the grid is clear, the red lights will come on, and we are underway for race 1 here of Asia Talent Cup action in Malaysia. It looks like a great start from Ozawa on the number 21 machine, but Takehira's got a good launch as well from pole position on the number 9. Pratama, look at Pratama on the number 7 coming through up the inside, breaks early does Pratama. Puetasan on the 20 up the inside, no, not quite, it's getting close into turn 1. Pratama up to 3rd place. That's a great start for the champion-elect, but it is Ozawa on the number 21 who leads.
Yeah, absolutely. Super start from the cup leader, Pratama. Exactly what he would have wanted, particularly in these conditions where if he were to get mired in mid-pack, you can see the spray there, wouldn't be ideal. So he's up to 3rd, a little bit more clear space in front of him, but brilliant start from Japanese rider Shinya Ozawa. He's out in the lead. I'm not quite sure who this is. I think it's Ahmed Darwisi, who's been left behind a little bit. Indeed it is. But back out front, it's Ozawa who leads over Takehira. Pratama has just been relegated actually to 4th position. Zen Mitani, he also got a decent start, and he's up to 3rd. Eamon Odaki in 5th, with Puetasan in 6th.
Perfect start then for Ozawa. Takehira getting away well as well. We got the launch, did Ozawa on Takehira, but the second phase of the start, Takehira managed to get a decent one as well, but it is Takehira in 2nd place. Mitani battling away with Pratama. Mitani on the number 2. The rookie, remember, knows that he has to beat Pratama at all costs, and then he'll find out at the end of the race if he is still in mathematical contention in the title race. The number 14 of Adaki Not the best of starts from the front row, but he's there in P5. Takahiro just winning slightly wide. Ozawa up the inside, keeping the lead of the race so far halfway around lap 1. Remember, it's a long lap here at the Sepang International Circuit. 5.5 kilometres in the dry. The fastest riders were set in 2:17, so expect these opening few laps to be around about the 2:30 mark, and expect them to get quicker and quicker as the race goes on. The top 5 are just pulling clear slightly of Pratama, who is in 6th place on the number 20. Pratama, remember, chief title rival of Pratama, knows that he has to beat Pratama at all cost today if he's to stand a chance of taking the title on to race 2 at least. Live Championship, we're going to get continuous updates of the Live Championship as things stand coming to the end of lap 1. Pratama will be crowned champion, but a long way to go.
Monodaki eyeing up a lunge inside of Pratama at the final corner. Not sure if he's going to make that stick, but it's a ballsy move if he does. But Pratama is up into 2nd place now. Odaki down to 3rd. Takahiro into 4th. But here comes the number 9 again. Will he push it back over the front straight to regain the position from Odaki? While you can see Zen Mitani is also in contention, but out front, Veda Pratama is going to make his move on Shinya Ozawa. Will he make it stick? He's got the inside line coming into turn 1. He's met that stick, and he's got the drive coming out and into turn 2. Pratama leads.
Yeah, classy move from Pratama. How often have we seen that in 2023? Just gets into the slipstream, lines the riders up on the inside. Great on the brakes is Pratama. Has been all season long. Everywhere we've been, we've seen Pratama so good on the brakes, and that was a classy move down into turn 1. Now then, what can the riders behind do about Pratama? They know he's got experience. They know how quick it is. Adaki up the insides at turn 4. Gets it a little bit out of shape on the exit, does Adaki. Clearly trying to put in these early exchanges. Ozawa demoted down to P3. Mitani in P4. Takahiro in P5. And is that Pratama? It is still in P6. That's Pratama that's crashed out. Pratama has gone down on the entry of turn 6. The number 7 of Pratama just as he's taken the lead. Title race drama here in Sepang race 1. Veda Pratama on lap 2 has crashed out of the lead. He's back up on his feet. Can he get the bike up and running? It doesn't look like he has at this moment in time. Wow, Chris, drama here in Sepang.
Absolute disaster for the Indonesian rider. He had opened up a half-second gap out front and looked like he had taken control of the race. I'm not sure what quite happened to him there. Victim to the treacherous conditions around turn 7. We earmarked it at the beginning of the race that around that sector was where it was wettest. Here we're going to see the replay. He was cruising out front, swinging it around turns 5, 6. And then let's see, he's going to lose it front, I think. It just goes very early on him as well, coming
that does go
out
early.
Of turn 6.
Yeah,
well,
just coming
absolute
round.
Disaster for him, and it means the title fight is going to rumble on.
Certainly does, Chris. Wow, was not expecting that. Pratama has barely put a foot wrong all season long. In fact, he hasn't put a foot wrong all season long. And then midway round lap 2, just as he's taken the lead, would you believe it, Pratama loses the front and crashes out of contention. Live Championship standings. We are going to race 2, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to the Indonesian fans who I'm sure are watching in their thousands from home or trackside or wherever. It's disappointment in race 1 for you guys and Pratama, but he still has a chance, remember, of taking the title in race 2. But back on track, it is Eamon Adaki on the number 14 who leads now from Mitani. Takahiro in P3, Ozawa demoted down to P4 for the time being, and Pratama up into P5. Of course, all these riders were behind Pratama when Pratama crashed, so they know exactly what has happened in front of them. And for the likes of Pratama, Mitani and Adaki especially, this is a golden opportunity to try and take as many points off Pratama as possible.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, Chakrapat Poetasan is running in 5th place at the moment, but if he can really get himself into this podium battle, it brings him right back into contention. As we see, Jorge Rafael Gading has crashed out, but it brings Poetasan back into contention. If he can get under the 50-point mark leaving this race, it can put just a little bit more pressure on Pratama, who will be kicking himself, crashing out of the lead in race 1. It looked like he could have sewn up the title today, but now he brings unnecessary pressure onto himself in race 2, which means there just might be a little bit more life in this title race just yet.
There's absolutely life in this title race. It's still a commanding position that Pratama finds himself in as things stand. 55 points, could be more, could be less by the time the race is done. Takahira launch it at the inside. Is he going to have a 2-for-1 deal there down at turn 9? The tight hairpin, yes he is. A great move from Takahira, clearly gaining confidence is the number 9 machine in these conditions. Is he going to take Adaki up the inside at turn 11? No, not quite this time around, but clearly the number 9, Takahira, very, very confident as the race goes on. Midway around lap 3, still 8.5 laps to go, a long way to go in this race. As I mentioned before, the lap times are going to get quicker and quicker and quicker. The rain has stopped and you can see the sunshine is appearing through the clouds. So as Chris mentioned earlier, it's not going to be too long before the drier parts of the circuit, including this part of the circuit down here, the back straight, still wet enough of course for the wet tyres, but I think towards the end of the race in the last couple of laps we're going to start to see dry lines appearing, which will add another little bit of spice into this race. Wanazara up the inside of Matani down at the final corner. Puetazan has closed in as well. Just showed a wheel to Matani around turn 15, but thought better of it. This group that had just started to split in the opening couple of laps has closed together. Let's get the gaps across the line. Adaki leading the way. Ogiwara in P6 is 1.2 seconds down. You can see there on the number 16, and he has set the fastest lap of the race at 2:35.321. He's getting a little bit tight down there at turn 1. Adaki leading, Matani now up in second place, Takahira in P3 and Ozawa in P4.
Yeah, it's a Japanese front 4. And the pace is hotting up just a little bit here with 8 laps to go, but it is a very long 8 laps, or just under 8 laps to go, I should say. Odaki leading out front, but Zen Matani fancies a little look on the outside. Will he get a decent run in here and get the inside line? Ooh. No, Odaki cuts the nose off him, while Shinya Zawa takes third off Richie Takahira, just behind them as we were casting our eye on Matani and Odaki. And look at the spray coming up off the rear wheels there at turn 2. That's a big high side.
Yeah, that's Gading going down.
From Gading, indeed. Oof, and thankfully everyone managed to avoid him, and Gading looks to be okay. But back out front then, it is Eamon Odaki who is leading here. This could be his opportunity for a breakthrough win. How many times have we seen him this year leading at the front? But yeah, the pesky counterpart of Veda Pratama proving a thorn in his side at every opportunity and denying him the win on more than one occasion. But it won't be easy as Zen Matani fires it up the inside and Shinya Zawa having a little look too. It's a 4-way fight for the win, and what this will do is bring Jacker Puetasan right into contention. He's beginning, and he's actually been faster the last couple of laps than the lead group ahead of him. So it looks like it might very quickly turn into a 5-way fight for victory here.
Yeah, this is interesting because the only 2 riders in this group who have won a race this year are, of course, Takahira in Malaysia at the start of the season and Puetazan last time out in race 1 in Thailand. Matani, Adaki, Ogiwara and Ozawa are all searching for their first wins of the season. Ozawa came into this year as one of the title favourites. He finished second in the ATC last year, of course, missed the opening race in Malaysia at the start of the season because he was on Red Bull Rookies Cup duties, the number 21 rider. He has experience here before, so it won't affect him too much. Fortunately, Fares Putra has crashed out on the number 8 machine, the Malaysian. That's unfortunate for Putra on his home race.
Zen Matani out of the seat there?
Yeah, it did look like it, didn't it?
I just saw it there. It's cost him the lead as well, and Eamon Odaki now is pushed in ahead. I'm sure we might get a replay of that, but it looked like Zen Matani was playing with fire a little bit there, and he's managed to stay upright. At least Shinya Ozawa fires it up the inside of Puetasan to move back into 4th position. He might even take 3rd position. No, Takahira has managed to cut the nose off him, but it's Odaki who leads then as we begin our next lap.
Top 7 across the line, top 8, sorry, split by 1.4 seconds. Hafai on the number 19 and Nicholas on the number 12 machine, as you can see there in the Baku picture, have locked their radars onto this lead group. So it is a lead group of 8 now for race victory. Live championship standings, Veda Pratama, 55 points to the good still, as we mentioned. Still a healthy margin, of course, and as we mentioned numerous times already, he can still claim the title in race 2. So all is not lost this weekend for Pratama. but that was a costly error down at turn 6, the corner that they're just going through now. Already, Chris, it looks like it's drying up very, very quickly indeed. Takahira thinking about it up the inside at turn 7. Not this time around. We saw Marc Marquez trying to do that on Augusto Fernandez in qualifying, and it didn't end well for the 8-time world champion. But I feel, Chris, this is going to go all the way to the wire. Takahira up the inside down at turn 9. Gets the job done this time around. Ozawa fancies a bit of that as well. It's getting close at the apex between Adaki and Ozawa, but Adaki hangs it around the outside. He'll have the inside line for turn 10, and the number 14 keeps position. But look at Takahira gaining confidence. As we mentioned, the times are going to get quicker and quicker as we go through this race, and it looks like Takahira at this moment in time fancies the race lead, and he's getting his head down.
Yeah, it's the pole sitter now, looks to take the initiative. He's got about half a second rather coming through that last, well, it's been cut now by a tenth. It's just under 4/10 of a second his advantage. And looking through the qualifying pace, the top 3 is your front rows. Takahira, Odaki and Ozawa, and less than a tenth of a second separated them in qualifying, and there's very little to choose between them here now, but they do have added company in Mitani and Puerta-San, who are still within just a couple tenths.
Yeah, the gap just being closed down the back straight to Takahira, just some different lines being taken down the back straight. I think Adaki in P2 just didn't fancy getting spray all over his windscreen. It could be pretty difficult to see through the spray. The spray isn't too bad at this moment in time, but as you can see, Takahira putting to the left-hand side. Adaki briefly set the fastest lap of the race. Hafai, the Malaysian, has set the fastest lap of the race at 2:35.0. Farish Hafai looking for his first podium of the season, and what a venue to do it at, his home race. The top 8 across the line. The gap had just stretched to 2 seconds between the top 8, but Hafai moved from P8 up into P6, so watch out for the number 19.
What a popular podium finisher that would be here, Farish Hafai. As you said, still waiting for his breakthrough in this class on the top 3. P12 and P9 in Malaysia this time round. He's on for a better result in Sepang. But it's all about the front 4 at the minute. Takahira once again out front, and as you said, El, it has dried up significantly around Sepang International Circuit. Though, as you can see, there are still some bits of spray coming up from the back of these Honda machines, so riders can't just throw caution to the wind just yet. They might fall victim to these mixed conditions, so they need to show their racecraft over the next 5.5 laps or so.
Certainly will. It's such a shame that Pratama crashed out of the race. This would have been, it's a fascinating race it is, but chuck Pratama in there to potentially win the title today, and this would have been a tantalising prospect. But as it is, we've still got a fascinating fight as Hafai, look at that, up the inside at turn 9, up the inside, and Mitani just gives it in back, does the number 19. Have a bit of that, says Mitani. Mitani knows, of course, he's got to gain as many points as possible in this race to try and claw back the points on Pratama. It looks like Takahira is just able in the sort of Sector 2, Sector 3 area of this Sepang International Circuit, is just able to stretch out to lead, and then the riders who are behind, Adaki, Mitani and Hafai, are just able to bridge the gap back in around the long straights. Look there, you can see there Adaki doing well around turn 14, and he'll tuck into the slipstream this time around, pulled to the left-hand side of the circuit last time around in Adaki. You can see Ozawa and Puerta-San doing the same there. But Adaki fancies a little bit of slipstream down into the final corner, breaks early, up out of the bubble earlier than Takahira was. So Adaki looks like he's comfortable so far, just sitting behind Takahira, and that's good racecraft, you feel, at this moment in time from Adaki. Takahira clearly comfortable, clearly wants to lead this race, clearly thinks he's quick enough to lead this race, and of course he is. But Adaki can just sit behind him. I mean, as I'm saying that, Adaki doesn't fancy sitting behind him for long. The top 4 into the 2:34s, but look at Hafai's time, Chris, on the number 19, the Malaysian, as we get a change for the lead down at turn 1. Mitani late on the brakes, a 2-for-1 deal down at turn 1, and Takahira goes from P1 to P3 in the click of a finger.
Very, very close racing there as Takahira is relegated to 3rd position. But as you mentioned, another fastest lap of the race from Farish Hafai. The Malaysian is on the chart. 2:34.183 that time around. He's gained 2 more positions after a strong qualifying. He's running P4. He wants a dream home podium, maybe even more. Richie Takahira then, he's running in 3rd place, but he's the only rider among the front 5 who has race winning experience this year, and that came at this circuit in race 1 at round 1. So how much will that come into contention over the next few laps? But as things stand, it's Zen Mitani out front as Hafai fires it up the inside of Shinya Azawa. That is great to see. He's taken no prisoners. Is he going to have a little go at Odaki here too? I don't think he's going to be quite close enough, but he is by far the fastest rider on circuit, as we have lost another rider to the conditions. I'm not quite sure who that is at the moment. It could be Adi Putra, but we'll come back and bring you news of that. In fact, it's Marianos Nicholas, whose name I see tumbling down the time screen. Faris Hafai now has taken P2 off of Odaki, as you can see there. Will a move come on Zen Mitani? He's very close behind him as we see what happened here. Oof, that's a big crash into the gravel. Thankfully, he gets up and walks away okay.
Yeah, that's a shame for the young Australian, going really, really well in race 1 in the wet conditions, just trying to keep tabs on the lead group, and unfortunately exactly where Pratama went down the road, Nicholas also went down the road as well. He was back up on his feet, thankfully, and he'll be out for a vengeance in race 2. Well, Nicholas, a great showing, unfortunately ending in a crash in the gravel. But back at the front, it is number 2 Mitani leading from Hafai, but Odaki pulling out of the slipstream up the inside into the final corner. Who's going to be last of the late breakers between the 19 and the 14? It looks like just...
Oh,
no, it's not. Hafai hangs it around the outside, just the Malaysian. It's going to be interesting to see what these lap times are. Mitani looks behind him and gets a face full of Hafai and Odaki. Odaki wins the race to the line. That could be crucial in a couple of laps' time. Mitani pulling across the track. Just be a little bit careful. Zen Mitani, Odaki on the outside, but it is a new race leader in the form of Malaysia, the home hero, the first of 4 home heroes racing here this weekend. It is Hafai on the number 19 who leads for the first time.
We've got the drying circuit, high side out, and they've all done well to avoid him, but that's an absolute disaster.
It's Mitani.
Oh, it's Mitani who's gone down just after claiming second place, but it's music to the ears of Faris Hafai. Look at the gap he's got now. He's got nearly a second to Richie Takehiro, who had to take evasive action over his compatriot there. I was just about to say it's a drying circuit, and we're getting the Age and Talent Cup racing we've been seeing all year, chopping and changing at the front. But yes, second race in a row, Zen Mitani has flipped out of the podium positions. Thankfully, everyone managed to take evasive action and nobody went down with him. But the rookie rider will be devastated. That is another DNF for him. Here we go, it's just slipped around, and I think that's just a victim to the drying track. We're saying it's drying up, but it's still a little bit slippery out there. And I don't think there was a whole lot he could have done there.
Yeah, just getting a little bit too trigger happy on the exit of turn 2. We've seen a few crashes down there this weekend across the classes, even some of the more experienced riders going down at turn 2. It's easily done, but I think just as the riders are building confidence, they're obviously starting to push the limits a little bit more. Rasaidan, unfortunately, has gone down at turn 4 as well. So I think the riders are just starting to gain more confidence, Chris, knowing where they can try and push a little bit more. They've learned where the grip is and seen where they can push the limits, and unfortunately for Mitani, he just overstepped the mark at turn 2. His Honda spat him over the top, but thankfully Mitani is okay. But look what it does to Mitani's championship. He's not even now inside the top 4, and that will be, unfortunately for Mitani, his slim title hopes gone, despite Pratama's crash out earlier in the race. It has left, though, Hafai on the number 19 with a pretty healthy margin going into the last 3 laps plus a corner. Turn 15 coming up. Odaki in second place. Azawa now up into third. Puetazan briefly in 4th place, but Takehiro takes the inside line up into 4th place. So what's the gap going to be for Hafai coming across the line? He crosses the line now. 0.4 of a second is the number 19's lead over Odaki. Azawa is right there. Takehiro is right there. Puetazan is right there as well. It's a 5-rider battle for the lead with 3 laps to go. Odaki laid on the brakes, a little bit out of the shape, but he's got it parked up onto the apex, leaving Hafai with nowhere to go. That's a cracking move from the number 14.
Yeah, Eamon O'Daki. Oh, Farish Hafai has gone down now as well. Oh, that's absolute devastation for the home fans and for the home rider. He was pushing another rider, pushing the limit. Will he get remounted? He's still on the track, so hopefully there won't be any problems there. But Farish Hafai is the latest rider to go down, following on from Zen Matani just a lap before, crashes out of P2. Eamon O'Daki, though, is out front with Shinya Zawa for company. Both riders chasing their maiden win of this campaign, with Jack Rafet Puetasan now running in third position and gaining a little bit more ground on the championship leader Veda Pratama, who was probably the first rider, if memory serves me correctly, to crash out of this race.
That's such a shame for Hafai. I didn't want to say it on the live, but I was thinking it. It was going to be win it or bin it for Hafai. Didn't look like he did much wrong there, unfortunately. The slightest of errors, the smallest of errors in these conditions can have such a costly effect, as we've seen numerous times already in this race. Unfortunately for Hafai, his race does end at turn 2 a lap later, as it did for Matani. What has it done, though, to the race lead in the lead group? Where has Takahira gone, Chris? Because he rounded turn 2 and now he's down in P10. On our timing screens on the left-hand side of the screen, now P11. So I don't know what's happened to Takahira, but drama has unfolded. It looks like he's out. We've not had any replays or confirmation of that, but you can see on the left-hand timing tower, Takahira on the number 9 is out of the race. Not sure what happened, but it looks like Puetasan has also lost time. So maybe when we're watching the replays of Hafai's crash, something happened between Takahira and Puetasan. Hopefully we get confirmation of that, but with 2 laps to go, including turn 11, it looks like it's Azawa versus Adaki for race victory, with Puetasan waiting in the wings.
Yeah, well spotted, El. I don't know what happened to Takahira then, but he is out and 10 riders remain. It's a battle of survival now. But victory is between Shinya Zawa, who leads ahead of Eamon O'Daki. It's a Sepang showdown between the two Japanese riders. Jack Rafet Puetasan, can he get a little bit closer? He's 1.5 seconds behind the front two, and he's only got less than 2 laps to do it. Can he reel them in on this drying track? Well, as we've seen, nobody is safe out there and anything can happen in these mixed conditions. But it's time to see what these riders are made of. Eamon O'Daki leads with under 2 laps remaining.
Interesting to see how Puetasan plays this. He knows Pratama's crashed out. He knows a couple of his other rivals have crashed out. P3 is a good points haul for the number 20, but he needs more points than that if he's going to close Pratama down in the overall standings more. But P3 will be okay for now. 55 points will be the gap, I think. If it stays like that, we'll get confirmation. But it looks like it is a race between the 2 Japanese riders. The number 21, the runner-up from last year, Shinya Azawa, and on the number 14, Eamon O'Daki, both looking, remember, for their first victory of the season. Turn 6 rounded, that's where Veda Pratama crashed out on the second lap. If you're just joining us, drama has unfolded throughout this race. Go back to the start and watch it in full before this race finishes, before we get any more spoilers. As Azawa setting the fastest lap of the race, 2:33.9 last time out, a couple of attempts quicker than O'Daki went. But as you can see from your screens, there is nothing in it between the 21 and the 14. O'Daki, is he going to have a look at the inside down at turn 9? No, not this time around.
Yeah, Puetasan is out of this victory battle, 2.5 seconds behind now, but it's all about Azawa and O'Daki, 2 riders from the land of the rising sun here in Sepang, chasing their maiden win of that campaign, and just over a lap to do it. There are a couple opportunities for O'Daki to make a move. He's having a little peek up the inside of Azawa there as they come around 12 and 13. But we've got turn 14 as a popular overtaking spot, as is the last corner, turn 15. While he'll have a couple more opportunities on the final lap, turn 1 mainly, if he wants to take the initiative and lead going through the final lap. But then he would have to defend at turn 4 and among some of the other brilliant turns at this amazing circuit. But at the moment, they're side by side and taking 2 different lines here. But Shinya Azawa is going to hold the advantage coming into the final corner as we prepare for the final lap of race 1 here in the Asia Talent Cup.
Oh, out the seat is
he's out of the
Azawa.
seat.
The penultimate, the final corner on the penultimate lap. The number 21 of Azara is out the seat. Somehow he holds on to the lead as they cross the line, pretty much line astern, next to each other, Azara and Adaki, as we start the final lap of the race. A two-horse race for victory here in Sepang. Looks like Pratama has settled for P3, but no one here is going to settle for anything other than a victory, you feel. The number 21 of Azara and the number 14 of Adaki. That was a heavy warning sign for Azara on the exit of the final corner. The rider's clearly pushing there. Very, very confident now in these conditions. They know exactly where the grip is and how hard to push. That was a little warning for Azara. Now, what can Adaki do? Turn 1 is a popular passing manoeuvre. That's gone. Turn 4 up the hill through the fast right-hander of turn 3 is coming up now. Adaki just hold station for now.
Yeah, he's not got the line there to try anything. I think he might leave it late here. Eamon Adaki has experience in these last lap shootouts so far in 2023. Veda Pratama has been the thorn in his side and foiled him on multiple occasions. But what has he learned from his experiences against the Indonesian? Because now he's facing his compatriot Shinya Azawa, who's chasing his first victory of the year. Let's see what racecraft Adaki has picked up over the year and where will he make his move. We're looking at turn 9 and 14, or is there going to be a chance there? Not quite yet, but turn 9 and 14 look to be the best opportunities for the number 14.
Yeah, coming down to turn 9 now. I thought Azara was slightly wide coming through turn 7, but he just took a late apex. Adaki doesn't make the move down at turn 9, so that's one of the best places to overtake. Again, gone for Adaki, but he's right on the coattails of the number 21 of Azara. Adaki certainly has a game plan in place here. Where will it be? Will it be turn 14, the penultimate corner? Turn 15 is the last opportunity to make an overtaking move here at the Sepang International Circuit. This is turn 12. They'll flick it right through turn 13. There's nothing between the pairing. Turn 14, Adaki late on the brakes but hangs it around the outside. It's going to be Slipstream City all the way down the back straight. Who's going to get on the power best out of turn 14? Here we go, down the back straight for the final time. The 21 of Azawa pulling over to the right-hand side, but Adaki's got a great run down into the final corner. Azawa tries to get up on the inside, taking the inside line. Who's going to be last of the late breakers?
Azawa's back up the inside.
Oh, that's close around the final corner. It looks like Adaki's going to hand it around the outside now. Who's going to pull the pin and get the run to the line? It looks like it's Eamon Adaki. Azawa shakes his head. It is going to be Eamon Adaki who wins here in Malaysia. A fantastic race here in race 1 of Malaysia. Look what it means to the number 14 of Adaki. The number 21 of Azawa hangs his head. He'll be disappointed with P2, but what a race between the pair. And look, the clear vices.
Yeah, look at the stoppie and everything.
Look what it means.
Joy and delirium for the number 14. Superb race from Eamon Adaki. That has been a long time coming, and he's finally delivered on that win. He's been chasing that for so long, and so many near misses this year. Shinya Azawa, his wait for the win will need to continue, but he can be proud of his efforts too. On the last corner, he's gotten done by Eamon Adaki, who is our race 1 winner here, and absolutely delighted by the looks of things. Jack Rafet Puetasan then came across the line in 3rd to keep his championship dream alive, as Veda Pratama DNF'd for the first time this year.
What a race from the pair of them. That is Adaki's first race win in the Asia Talent Cup since Qatar last year. Over a year has the number 14 waited to taste victory in the Asia Talent Cup, but it has come. This is the penultimate lap at the final corner. Watch the number 21 of Azara as he asks for a bit more throttle. Just gets it out of shape. It probably looks worse to us than it did on the bike, but this is the last lap coming down to the final corner. Azawa led out of turn 14, but Adaki got a great run, and then Azawa tried to park his Honda up the inside on the apex. Adaki, though, hangs it around the outside, gets the power down nice and early, hanging it off the bike, trying to get under the bubble as quick as possible, and then it's not too much of a run to the line. Azawa knew coming out of the final corner that the race was lost, and look what it means to Adaki. That's fantastic, isn't it? And clear visors, we love clear visors because you can actually see the expressions and the emotions on the rider's face. Toprak Razgatlioglu, there we go, a tongue twister. Endo to celebrate as well. for Adaki. And Pratama, Chris, crossed the line in P3. We questioned whether he'd go for it. He didn't. He did the sensible thing and the right thing as well to gain a valuable 16 points on Vader Pratama, who crashed out, of course, on lap 2. A great race from the top 2, but an equally impressive ride from Pratama.
Yeah, Shinya Ozawa, as you can see then on our screens, a little bit disappointed, I think, judging by his body language. That's another P2 for him to go with, along with the ones he picked up in Japan and Thailand. But this is Jack Rafet Pratama, as you mentioned, did the sensible thing, picked up 16 points, keeps his championship dream alive. Still, Pratama can wrap it up tomorrow, but it's a little bit more complicated for the Indonesian rider, and Pratama just moves that little bit closer to him. So another mistake from Pratama, and Pratama gets within range.
Yeah, it certainly does. Adaki, incidentally, has moved up to second in the overall standings with that victory. So Adaki now acts as Pratama's closest challenger heading into race 2. It was a race of attrition in the end. The conditions catching out a fair few riders, everyone pushing the limits. We mentioned, didn't we, as Pratama crashed out, there was only a couple of riders who had won in the lead group, and that was Takehira and Pratama. Pratama ending on the podium. We didn't see what happened to Takehira, did we? Hopefully we'll get a replay at some point. But as we were watching the replays of Hafai's unfortunate crash down at turn 2, Takehira, we did get confirmation that he'd crashed out and the rider is okay. So that's good news, but unfortunately we didn't get to see what happened to Takehira. So the riders just pulling into the support paddock, but the top 3 will make their way around the final corner and come on to the podium here in Malaysia. And the number 14 of Adaki waving his finger, holding the number 1 up to the crowd that have stuck around here at the Sepang International Circuit. And the good thing is, Chris, we get to do it all over again in a few hours' time tomorrow morning.
Yeah, absolutely. With a title on the line, we're looking there in at the box. Yeah, title on the line. Pratama going to look to wrap it up. The number 21, Shinya Ozawa, still there. We'll have to wait for him to get to the podium as we look at Pratama and Adaki make their way there. But yeah, it's going to be unmissable again tomorrow, El, isn't it? Chance of a title, chance of anything happening, really. Asia Talent Cup has been delivering the goods by the bucket load this year, so you won't want to miss tomorrow's morning's action.
Yeah, certainly won't. Ozawa there looking absolutely devastated with his P2. You can understand that, of course. Never nice finishing such a close second, and as we've mentioned, he's without a win this year as Ozawa. Came into the season having finished second in last year's Cup. Came into it as a title favourite, and obviously missing the first round is never a good way to start the season. Of course, it was because he was on Red Bull Rooster Cup duties, which is understandable. Exciting times coming the way of Shinya Ozawa over in Europe. But yeah, you can understand he's disappointed. Pratama doesn't look too disappointed with P3, though, with tricky conditions for everyone out there. Good to see Pratama back on the podium. Double podium last time out in Thailand. That's 3 podiums in a row now for Pratama. So he's stringing some very impressive results together, is the Thai rider. And a dejected Ozawa pulls into pit lane. I'm sure he'll be fine once he's stood on the podium, celebrated a P2. Yeah, Diego Lozano, one of the rider coaches here in the Asia Talent Cup, just shrugging his shoulders. Not much more Ozawa could have done, unfortunately. That's the way it goes sometimes. Led out of the penultimate corner, and Slipstream, unfortunately, just coming into play. Tried his best to get up the inside at the final corner, but it wasn't to be. Adaki just outsmarted him, unfortunately, for Ozawa. I'll be speaking to all 3 riders once we're done here in the commentary box. And I'll try cheer Ozawa up, but seeing my face probably won't do him any favours in a few minutes' time. Here are the final results then for race 1 of 2 here in Malaysia. Ayman Adaki is a race winner for the first time in 2023. A fantastic battle saw Adaki beat Ozawa by a couple of tenths, with Pratama rounding out the podium in P3. Ogiwara claimed P4, with Al Zahuti rounding out your top 5. Levi Russo of Australia is P6 today, with Mailandri Singapong on his second appearance in the Cup, finishing P8, with Chavan and Adi Putra rounding out the top 10. And the riders that finished. A long list of DNFs. Hafai, who was battling for the race lead. Takahira, who was battling for the race lead. Watani, who was battling for the race lead, all crashing out. Rasaidan, Nicholas, Putra, Gading, and of course Darwizi, who didn't finish the first lap, and Vader Pratama crashing out on lap 2. And this is what it does to the Riders' Championship. Pratama still has a healthy advantage and he can still win the title tomorrow morning in race 2, but the gap has been slashed down to 55 points. However, if Pratama leads by 50 points or more, going away from Malaysia into the final couple of races of the season next weekend in Qatar, he will still claim the title. So all is not lost for Pratama, but of course he will be disappointed. Partizan moves to 3rd place after sitting 2nd. Matani drops down to 4th place. Ogiwara, Takahira, Ozawa, Al Zahuti, Hafai and Faris Pucha round out your top 10 here after race 1 in the overall standings. So then, it is podium time here in Malaysia. Just after we get a replay of what happened on lap 2, down at turn 6, Chris. Just Pratama, as soon as he got into the race lead, clearly trying to push. And unfortunately, the front end just said, nope, not having that anymore. Nothing too wrong with that, unfortunately, for Pratama. The littlest of mistakes can cost you dearly in motorcycle racing, and that's exactly what happened. You can see the frustration of Pratama. He knows that's an opportunity that's gone begging in 2023, but all is not lost, as I say. 55 points is his advantage with 3 to go. Still a commanding position.
Yeah, all is not lost, as you say. It's not exactly a nightmare scenario when you've got a 55-point advantage going in with 3 races remaining. But not his day. It very much is the day of the 3 riders here. Jacques Raffet Pouet-Dessan coming on to celebrate another podium. His 4th overall of the year and 3rd in a row. When he'll be followed on by 2 Japanese riders. Shinya Ozawa, he was disappointed not to get the win. Probably still a little bit is, but I'm sure once he's on the podium he'll perk up a little bit. But one rider who doesn't need to perk up anymore, that's Eamon Odaki. Breakthrough win of the year for him, and he's going to celebrate hard.
Certainly is Odaki. You can see how much it meant to him. I've spoken to Odaki a few times this year, and he's been pleased with his podiums, but also disappointed. So, as you saw on the call-in down lap, how happy he was to take home this race winners trophy from Malaysia. Eamon Odaki, such a likeable kid as well. All of them are. They're all very bright talents, very likeable guys, as we get ready for the Japanese national anthem. Congratulations to Eamon Odaki, hearing the Japanese national anthem for the first time since Qatar last year, on the podium in the Asia Talent Cup. For himself anyway, the Japanese national anthem has rung around a few times already. What will the national anthem be tomorrow? Indonesian fans watching on, we're hoping it's the Indonesian one, of course, for Vader Pratama. But if race 1 is anything to go by, what are we going to get tomorrow? Drama aplenty here in Sepang. The riders just posing for the photo. They'll get ready to go debrief with the mechanics. And now we can get ready for highlights of race 1 here in Malaysia. Takahira, the number 9, started from pole position with Shinya Ozawa getting away well. Braking late down into turn 1 and getting the whole shot. Pratama, the championship leader, got away well from P5 on the grid. And at the start of the second lap here, down at turn 1, the number 7 took the lead. However, this then unfolded at turn 6. The right-hander, as Pratama flicked it right, not long since he'd taken the lead, he crashed out of contention. Drama in the title race. This is what happened in the lead group. It was a fascinating battle throughout the race. Takahiro on the number 9, Adaki, Matani on the number 2, Hafai, the Malaysian, the home hero, on the number 19. And the lead was changing throughout the race. Turn 15, the final corner here at Sepang, saw plenty of overtaking as Hafai made his way to the front for the first time with a few laps remaining. This is Matani, unfortunately, crashing out on the exit of turn 2. The Japanese rider was all okay, but that was his race over. And then a lap later, just after being demoted to P2, pretty much the same happened. Unfortunately for Hafai, he crashed out of second place, and a podium and a potential victory went begging. This was the final corner though, on the final lap. Ozawa led out of turn 14, but Adaki got the slipstream, hung it around the outside and claimed his first win of 2023, and look what it meant. Thanks for joining us for race 1. We will see you tomorrow morning for race 2. See you then.